And as you step deeper into whatever season of your life that you're in, may you remember that you are a flower essence for this world, and you are creating ripples of change everywhere you are, everywhere you grow, and every time you say yes to your own becoming. Hello and welcome back to Remember Why You're Here, a podcast for seekers and sensitives where you can relax, receive, reconnect to yourself, and remember the most important thing of all, why you're here. Lately, I've just been in love with all of the spring flowers. Where I live, we are in a north-facing cove here in the mountains of Western North Carolina. And so we have this whole parade of spring ephemerals that happens here, starting probably in late February and then going through till the end of May, depending on when the canopy closes. And so I've just been in this love affair recently with the flowers, spending as much time as I can outside with them and really receiving their medicine. Humans have been obsessed with flowers forever. There is archaeological evidence as far back as our Neanderthal kin of human species burying their dead with flowers, of flowers being this symbol of life, of possibility, of openings. There's such a joy that comes with the spring flowers every year. It really feels like this promise of life beginning again, and not just the life of the earth, but our own lives. This sense of no matter what pattern of stuckness you've been in, that there is new possibility coming. There's new blooms on the way, and flowers are really just so good at showing us that. I've been a flower essence maker now for 15 years, and it was a huge part of how I began my whole journey into herbalism. It really started for me with discovering flower essences and has remained a cornerstone of my practice all these years, throughout all the years that I had my apothecary. I had a flower essence line, made and sold flower essences around the world. And in my experiences with working with flower essences, of which there's been so many incredible experiences sitting with flowers, there's been this one message that has come through a lot for me and has been so profoundly helpful in my life. I then started sharing these messages when I was teaching, especially when I was teaching retreats and working with people in person. And I found that this message was just so helpful for everyone else who heard it too. So for this podcast today, I want to share that message with you. This message that can really help you reframe your understanding of yourself and the role that you're here to play in this world. So keep listening for the audio version of this beloved video called You Are a Flower Essence for This World. One of my all-time favorite medicines are flower essences. Flower essences are the energetic imprint of a flower in bloom captured in water and diluted down so that it works on our subtle, emotional, and spiritual bodies. I've seen incredible shifts happen for myself and my clients through working with flower essences. At this point in my life, flower essences are my favorite medicines to be working with on a daily basis because I've seen firsthand just how much transformation they can bring. Some people might wonder, how do flower essences make such a big change if they're so dilute, if they're so small? But my answer would be, part of how that change is made is being so small and yet so impactful. Over the past 10 years, teaching the practice of flower essences to people around the world, I've come to realize something pretty special. And this message is to let you know that you are a flower essence for this world. So at its most basic, we work with flowers in our essence-making practice because flowers capture the possibility of blooming.
When a flowering plant blooms, it has really fulfilled its life blueprint, its highest creative potential. It is the penultimate expression of that plant's heart and soul. So when we work with flower essences ourselves, we are inviting that expression inside of ourselves to take root, grow, and flower. We're all here because we have gifts to bring to this world, and flower essences, through their subtle medicines, help us to see those gifts, help us to dissolve those blocks and really bloom forth with our gifts without fear and with joy. When you make a flower essence, you are literally just taking one drop of water that this flower has sat in, and you can create from that one drop of water many different bottles of medicine. It's amazing what one drop can do to change the world. One of the things that I've seen over and over again in working with different people from around the world is it can feel so good to come together and be in community and be supporting each other on these paths of finding our medicine and connecting to the living world. And then it can feel hard to go back to the communities that we live in, to go back to our work lives, or to go back to families that don't totally understand what it is, what we're doing, or why it matters to us. So many times I've had my students say to me, I love being in this community and I love this information, but when I go back into my community at home, I feel like I'm too small to make a difference and it just feels too hard. And to them and to you, I say this: you are a flower essence for this world. Wherever you live right now, whether it's an environment where there's a lot of people who are on board with something like flower essences, or you live in a community where someone would look at you like you're nuts if you even brought it up, know that your presence in that community is the thing that is shifting everything on a very subtle level. When we make flower essences, we're literally just floating that bloom in pure water. Just that flower being in water changes the chemical structure of the water. You, who you are, your unique medicine, the things you're passionate about, the things you hold close to your heart, although it may not be understood always by the people around you, know that that heart energy is literally changing the environment that you're moving through. In fact, I think the earth is asking a lot of us to go into environments that feel harder or that feel harsher because the earth is asking us to bring medicine to those places. Even though it might not feel that way sometimes, you are medicine for your community. You are like a flower essence dropped into the well, and whether or not the people that you're around realize it, you are helping them to open up to what's inside of them that they have kept under lock and key. Just like a flower essence, your presence is what is helping them to dissolve the blocks that have stood in the way of their happiness, their blooming, and the fulfillment of their life blueprint. The amazing thing is you don't have to explain anything. You don't have to get people on board with what you're passionate about. All you have to do is act like a flower essence. Be yourself. Think about how one flower can grow up in the midst of a city park, and it can change its environment just by being itself and being willing to bloom. So you in your community, wherever you are in the world, have the ability to shift your environment and shift the hearts of those who are in your sphere just by being brave enough to bloom, by being brave enough to be who you are and care about what you care about, being honest about what moves you. And when someone asks you to share, being willing to share that too. When I take my flower essences in the morning, sometimes I just put one drop in a glass of water that I'll drink for the rest of the day. So no matter where you are in life or how much you feel like you've done or haven't done yet, know that that one drop of who you are, that essence, is literally changing the fabric of reality around you. And you don't need to do anything except be yourself.
Wow, that message never fails to help me, no matter where I am in my life. That reframe, that understanding from the earth and from the flowers has helped me so immensely over the years to remember who I am, to remember that what I'm doing is valuable, is important, and that I'm already really fulfilling my mission on this planet just by saying yes to the continuation of my own unfoldment. So if you found yourself listening to this message and feel curious about flower essences, specifically how to make your own flower essences, I thought I would share with you here a part 2 follow-up, which is a guide to making your own flower essences. This is one of the things that I love the most to help people with, to teach people about, because it's actually so simple. And when I first started making flower essences, there's really very few sources out there talking about how to do it. And it's one of the most creative, individualized processes that I see in the herbalism world. It's just the magic that you bring as an individual to making your own flower essences is incredible. You can make flower essences out of any flower. If a flower is highly toxic, I would recommend staying away from that, just because with that, you really need to make sure you know absolutely what you're doing with the dilution process. But outside of flowers that are overtly toxic, which is something you can easily look up for your region, you can make a flower essence from any flower. So it doesn't have to be a flower that is something that's part of a materia medica. It doesn't have to be a flower that is edible. All flowers hold energy of healing that help us unblock our potential, that help us see ourselves as the flower essences that we are for this world. So if you are curious about making your own flower essences this spring or whatever season you're in, keep listening for that tutorial.
The elements that you need to make flower essences are simple. You'll just need a bowl with water, scissors, sunlight, intention, and your flower. When we make a flower essence, we work with a flower that's blooming and growing right now. So not necessarily a cut flower, but one that's growing around you. The first step to making your flower essence is to decide on an essence. And I often find that a particular flower is really attracting me, is really igniting my curiosity. That's always the flower to go with first. Number 2 is to gather together your bowl, the highest quality water you can find, a pair of scissors, and to go out to your flower. Once there, we get to step number 3, and the most important step in my opinion, and that's to ask permission. To sit with this flower and ask this flower permission to harvest its blooms in this medicine. This is a really important moment of making a heart-to-heart connection with this plant. And when you receive permission from a flower, that flower is opening the gateway for all of its healing to be translated into your medicine. You're going to listen for this nod of assent, and this might come in through a sound, maybe the wind moving through or a bee landing on the flower. Wherever you're at, just really sink into your meditative practice and open to whatever answer is there. You might hear no, and if that's the case, graciously accept that and move on. Most of the time, however, if I've been getting a message to work with a specific essence, the answer will be yes. At this point in time, I often like to give a gift, something that is important or precious to me, just as a way to show this flower and this plant being that I'm here to be in relationship. Step number 4 is to take your scissors and harvest that flower directly into your bowl of water. Now, I want to make a note here about scarcity. Some flowers, particularly if they're wildflowers, are endangered. So it's important to do your research and make sure that this isn't an at-risk species. If it's abundant flower, say a garden flower or a weed, then you don't need to worry about it. You can choose one flower, a whole flower head, or several flowers, taking into account the diversity and the amount of flowers in your general area. As always, ask permission with each bloom and get that feeling of yes before you clip them. Step number 5 is to set your essence out underneath the sunlight. There is a special kind of alchemy that happens between the sun, the water, and the bloom. I like to let my essence sit for about 3 to 6 hours in the full sun. That said, I've also made essences on cloudy days or under the moon. No matter where we are and what time we're in on this planet, the sunlight's always coming into our atmosphere, whether it's through the moon or through the faraway suns of stars. Either way, I want you to follow your intuition, knowing that the traditional practice is full sunlight for a time span of 3 to 6 hours. Step number 6, when you feel your essence is done, you're going to take it inside and siphon off that water from the bloom. I like to use a small coffee filter or cheesecloth to get any particulates out, and you're going to siphon that water into a jar or a bottle and preserve it. You can either preserve it with 50% alcohol, so you'd fill up the jar halfway with your mother essence water and halfway with alcohol. Brandy is traditional. Or you can do 50% essence water and 50% apple cider vinegar if you're avoiding alcohol. Your apple cider vinegar and water mixture should last at least several months if kept in the fridge. Your alcohol and water mixture can last indefinitely. This is your mother essence, and you can take your essence directly from that bottle. Step number 7, if you choose to, would be to create a stock bottle. A stock bottle is made by simply taking 1 to 7 drops of your mother essence and putting in a separate bottle. You would then fill that bottle with half water and half preservative of your choice, apple cider vinegar or alcohol. What you find in stores often is stock bottles, and part of the philosophy behind this is the more highly dilute the essence is, the smaller it is, the deeper it can go into our deep, deep, deep places that are in need of healing. The philosophy behind taking a stock bottle is similar to homeopathics. When we dilute down our essence one extra step, we're actually making this medicine slightly smaller and therefore more readily available and received to both our emotional and spiritual bodies. So get out there this spring and try making your own flower essences. It is one of my favorite rituals and practices throughout the growing season.
So now you have everything you need to make your own flower essence. And if you do, I would love to hear about it. You can leave me a voice message over on my website at asiasuler.com/remember. And it is one of the brightest spots of my day when I get a voice message from all of you. So I'd love to hear about how the process went, maybe what flower you made an essence from. And if this way of working with plants is exciting for you, if you want to go deeper, if you're ready to really step into a new era of working with the plants for healing, of trusting and knowing that your intuition has the ability to guide you into having really vibrant, powerful healing relationships with plants, then I have a in-depth program that I've run now for almost a decade called Intuitive Plant Medicine, where we go really deep into flower essences, creation, practice, plant dream work, channeling with plants, ancestral plant work, on the body medicine, land healing. And that course is going to be on sale in just a few weeks. And this sale is actually going to be bigger than any sale I've ever done before. So if you've been eyeing this course or it sounds interesting to you, definitely stay tuned for that. And as you step deeper into whatever season of your life that you're in, may you remember that you are a flower essence for this world and you are creating ripples of change everywhere you are, everywhere you grow, and every time you say yes to your own becoming. And you are creating those ripples of change every time you simply remember why you're here.